For the majority of my life, just hearing the word masculine would send me into a panic. I would dissociate from my body as my mind anxiously analyzed what is the best way to perform masculinity at any given moment. As if my life was a play, and being a man was the role that I was assigned, a role that I could not refuse. I remember my earliest lessons in masculinity. My earliest lesson, to be in fact, it was one of the earliest memories that I have. I was about 4 or 5 years old. My parents had separated a few years prior, and I was visiting my father for Christmas over at my Granny Ome's house. Her living room was filled to the brim with cousins, uncles, aunts, the whole family. It was so warm, not only in love and laughter, but in temperature, as she kept that house on high at all times. The house had no choice but to be cozy. Us kids had just finished opening up the Christmas presents, and I was running around the living room playing with my new Dragon Ball Z action figures. I was flying my pink Majin Buu across the living room when I suddenly remember being lifted up into the air myself by the shirt collar to meet the infuriated eyes of my father staring back at me. He was like a lion, with his long brown locks framing his tan face, snarling at me as he roared. He yelled in my face with his deep, commanding voice for what seemed like an eternity. I felt the walls closing in as all eyes convened on us. My body grew warm with shame, though I couldn't tell you what I was supposed to be ashamed of, what I had done to deserve this. Was I running too much? Laughing too loud? I don't remember most of the details, but I do recall my tears flowing and growing hot with anger at the injustice that I felt. I learned a few lessons that day. I learned that, from my father, that masculinity was a commanding energy, and it ran on the thread of violence. And I learned from everyone else's reactions that that violence was sanctioned. That silence and complicity, my silence and complicity, were required. A man was not to be questioned, only obeyed. My father was a fun-loving, caring, nerdy guy, but he also was a retired military intelligence officer, so he did everything with rigor. He showed the kids in my family how to light fireworks on the 4th of July, and he taught us all the art of video games. But I'd get a lecture if I didn't follow his directions to the T, or if I killed too many of the simulated civilians. I loved killing the civilians. He would teach us about politics and government through his experiences with the military, sharing with us all of the wisdom that he learned. And I learned so much from him, mainly how to question everything that I heard and to do my own research. But we were not ever to question him. I had a tiny stage to be on. And as long as I was within those limits, I was okay to express myself however I wanted. Okay, I figured I could do it if I really tried. I visited my father several times a year, but I lived primarily with my mom. My mom was the most nourishing, loving human that I know. She passed away nearly 4 years ago, completely out of nowhere, and to the shock of my entire family. I miss her so much, but I do still feel her with me, and I can still feel the peace that being in her arms brought me. She was a counselor, and she worked hard for my sister and me, making a living for us. Her joy came from seeing us happy. While she worked, her mom, my grandma, would step in and take care of my sister and I. She'd make breakfast for us every morning, take us to school, pick us up in the afternoon, with a warm, hot meal waiting for us as soon as we all got back in the evening. She was like a second mom to me, and she's my best friend to this day. I learned most of my values from these two women: how to nurture and care for others, the importance of hard work, and how caregiving can be one of the most rewarding jobs imaginable. But I wasn't sure how these values really fit into my training as a man. My stage at home was a little bit wider, but I still felt the strain of the role that I was expected to play, contrasting with the rest of me that was just off stage. These caring, nurturing parts of me were too feminine for the spotlight. As I entered puberty, my journey with masculinity became a little more complex as I began to grow feelings for boys. God, why me? Life was confusing enough as is. I didn't need same-sex attraction queering my relationship with manhood even further. So I suppressed it. I pushed those feelings down, began dating girls, if you can call it dating. More accurately, I would describe it as me asking a girl out and then avoiding her for like a week or two until she broke up with me. But hey, at least I was performing. Fake it till you make it, right? Well, I faked it. I faked it all the way through middle school, into high school, holding on to this mask of heterosexuality by a string. I felt like if I let that go, I'd have nothing else to support my masculinity with. But by the end of senior year of high school, that mask had to come off. By that time, I was participating in theater and was surrounded by a lot of queer people, and I felt alive in their presence. I gradually started telling some friends about my interest in boys, slipping into casual conversation. You're right, girl, he is cute. Embracing my mannerisms and embodying myself deeper day by day. My friends from theater welcomed all of these changes with open arms and no questions asked. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could perform more than just the manly role that I was assigned. It was a few years later, in college, I was taking a queer theories class where I learned that I didn't need to be a man at all. I began to explore the possibility of identifying outside of the label of man. Before that class, I'd questioned my gender a little bit, but I never really left the camp of manhood because I had no strong desire to be any other gender, just to avoid the pressures of performing man day in and day out. I didn't realize I could just let go. I don't have to identify with man, even if I don't necessarily want to be a woman. I can just be me. I can love and be hardworking like my mom. I can also be fun-loving and have wisdom like my father, while letting go of all the extra baggage, the rejection, the suppression, the need to control. Today, I'm still releasing what's not for me. And I'm slipping deeper into being both a boy and living beyond the binary. I go by he and they pronouns, and I'm finding community with amazing people that show me what masculinity can look like, that show me what any kind of expression can look like. And today, I feel like the entire world can be my stage.